Well, hello there. It's your man, Anthony Henderson, speaker extraordinaire here. And I want to talk to you about the importance of having a divine connection. And how when you have that divine connection with Abba Father, with the God of the universe, that everything will ultimately be all right, all right. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't have any problems, that you won't have trials and tribulations, that you won't have disappointments in life. No, not at all. But all things work together for the good of those that love God and that are called according to his purpose. But again, we got to have a divine connection. So what's a connection? A connection is a relationship in which a person, a thing, or an idea is linked or associated with something else. It's an attachment. It's a tie-in. It's a bond. If you look at the two symbols that I have at the bottom of the screen there for the divine connects to the words divine connection, one is a link, and the other is a chain. And when you think about a chain, it has links associated with it, correct? And I'm sure you've probably heard the old phrase that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Even in sports, they say that a player is only as strong as his a team, I should say, is only as strong as their weakest link or their weakest players. And that's letting you know that if you can get to one of those links and you can mess up or interrupt the connection, there could be a problem. But as long as we're properly connected, as long as we have a divine connection, again, everything will be all right, all right. Ha ha. Yes, indeed. Why is that so vitally important? Because we are made in the image of God. We are at the crown of God's creation. That's what man is. That's what human beings are. What is man that thou art mindful of him? The son of man that you care for him. Because again, we've been made in the image of God. And so, what I'm going to do to drive home the importance of having a divine connection, a relationship, and an importance, I'm going to share a few analogies with you. But before I go into those analogies, I want to share one more symbol for connection. And it's something that we see all the time, especially if we have one of these, especially if we have a mobile phone. And on that mobile phone, you'll see that Wi-Fi signal. And that Wi-Fi signal is in the shape of a V, right? And you see a little dot at the bottom. And then there's two dots after the three dots, four dots, and it goes out like this. And so the higher the dots go up, it means the stronger connection. And so often when you look down at your phone, if you don't see that strong signal, that means you're not properly connected. And that means that phone that's been created to make calls and receive calls and go on the internet and send and receive text, that it won't probably be able to do that because it's not properly connected. It was not able to walk in its purpose. It's not able to do what it's been created to do. And so it is with you, beloved. If you're not properly connected, if you don't have a divine connection, you're not going to be able to walk in your purpose. You're not going to be able to fulfill your destiny in life. When I think about connection and when I think about God, he's like oxygen. You can't see him, but you can't live without him. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. All right, so let's talk about these analogies. When God created fish, what did he do? He spoke to the water. He spoke to the sea. That's what he did. He spoke to the water. He spoke to the sea. And when God created the trees, when he created plants, he spoke to the earth. He spoke to the dirt. He spoke to the soil. But when God created man, my, he turned to himself and he said, let us make man in our own image, our own likeness. I'm kind of remember back in the day, there was this commercial back in the days of Michael Jordan when he played professional basketball, the GOAT, the greatest to ever do it. And Spike Lee had these series of commercials. And in the commercials, they'd always say, you want to be like Mike. Like Mike. Got to be like Mike. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be like Mike, but ultimately we want to be like God. Why? Because we've been created in the image of God. So that's what we want to be like. All right. But when you take that fish, I share with you about how God created fish and how he created the trees and what he did and what he spoke to. But if you take a fish and you remove that fish from the water, what happens to the fish? Ultimately, the fish is going to die. Eventually, I should say, the fish is going to die. Even if it jumps out of the water under its own volition, it's something that it wanted to do. Eventually, it understands that I got to get back in this water. I got to get back into my supply. I got to get back into my source in order to survive. Even walking catfish. I reside down in South Florida. We got these walking catfish. They come up out of the water and they spend a few minutes or two up on the land. But eventually, that walking catfish, it knows I got to get this hip back into this water if I want to survive. I got to get back to my source. And that's for all fish. It don't matter the type of fish. It doesn't matter if it's Nemo. Don't matter if it's a tropical fish or even a blowfish. Don't matter. If you take a fish out of the water, eventually it's going to die. Okay? Eventually it's going to die. All right? It'll be just like that. A fish out of water. All right? Trees. You take a tree out of the ground, what happens to the tree? Ultimately, when you remove a tree from the ground, it is going to die. Why? Because it's removed from its source. Now, what you're looking at right now is a healthy tree, a tree with a good root system, a tree that is properly connected, a tree that's properly connected to its source. And because it's properly connected to the soil, because it's properly connected to the earth, to the ground, it's able to grow, it's able to thrive and be strong and be green and tall like a tree. It's able to walk in its purpose. Why? Because it's properly connected. But again, when you remove that tree out of the ground, it is going to die. And so it is with man. When man disconnects from God, what happens? He ultimately dies. Because see, God is our natural environment. That's what he is. We were created to live in his presence. We have to be, got to be connected to him. Because only with him does life exist. We have to stay in touch with God. We have to maintain that divine connection. We have to have that tie-in, that connection, that bond with Abba Father. But what happens when we disconnect? So glad you asked. Let's go back to those analogies I shared with you. All right? 3 takeaways in this video. Takeaway number 1. A water without fish, it's still water. It's still water. Okay? Water without fish is still water. But fish without water, they don't exist. They will eventually die. You see the visual there? Very strong visual. That fish decided he wanted to get up out the water. And now it's gasping for air and eventually it's going to die because it's got not properly connected to its source. And then its friend that was wise stayed in the water. He looked at him like, I told you not to get your butt up out this water. All right? Water without fish is still water. But fish without water, they don't exist. They're absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Takeaway number 2. Soil without tree. What's a soil without tree? Okay, it's still soil. It's still soil. But the tree without the soil is nothing. It's just a piece of wood. It's dead bark. There's no leaves. There's no life. All right, but that soil, it's still soil. Lizards can still scurry along. Worms can still dig in it. Ants can crawl over it. I can still walk on it and shred mud in the house. Hey, your soil is still soil. Dirt is still dirt. Earth is still earth without the tree. But the tree without the earth, the tree without the soil is nothing because it's no longer connected to what gives it the nutrients that it needs to survive. Takeaway number 3. God without man. Still God. Still God. God without man is still God. But man without God is absolutely nothing. It's no thing. It's nothing, right? From everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. You might be watching me and you're saying to yourself, "Well, Anthony, I hear you. I'm good because I'm rich. Got plenty of money, plenty of money. I'm rich. I ain't got no relationship with God. I don't even believe in God." That's okay. That's your opinion and you're entitled to it. But I submit to you that if you feel that way, a rich man without God is just a poor man with money. That's all you are. You're just a poor man with money. You might be watching me and you're saying to yourself, "Anthony, I hear you. I'm kind of getting this divine connection thing, but I gave God a shot. I tried it a few times and I just keep messing up. I made promises to him. I said, God, if you get me out of this, I'll never, ever, ever, ever do it again." Have you been there? Have you made that promise? I know I have. I've done it a time or two and I messed up. And, we all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. But thank God for his grace and his mercy that he forgives us. Right? From everlasting to everlasting, he's still God. And he loves you more than you can ever know. He loves you unconditionally. But you have to have that divine connection. It ain't about being perfect. You're going to mess up. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I mean, I'm not sinless. I mess up sometimes, but I'm definitely sin free. I'm sin free. Sin ain't got no power over me. None. Not nary bit. Do I occasionally mess up? Yeah, I'm human, but I'm sin free. Sin free. Another way to think about it is just a lamb, a sheep, for example. If a sheep falls in the mud, it may fall in the mud, but that sheep ain't comfortable in that mud. That sheep's like, "Meh, meh, get me up out of here. I don't belong here. I don't belong in this mud." Where a pig, on the other hand, a pig can fall in the mud and it's happy. Woo-hoo! Yes, because that's where a pig belongs. It belongs in the mud. But you're not a pig. You don't belong in the mud. You don't belong in an environment that's not conducive to you to be able to thrive and prosper. God wants nothing but the best for you. He said, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper, that you be in good health, even as your soul prospers." But you got to be connected. Got to be connected. God without man, he's still God. But man without God is absolutely nothing. Nothing. You got to have God. Because if there's no God, you have no hope. No hope whatsoever. Without God, life has no purpose. And without purpose, life has no meaning. Without meaning, life has no significance or hope. What's hope? In the words of Desmond Tutu, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. 2020 has been pretty dark, been pretty challenging. It's been tough. It's been downright hard and difficult. And we still have a few more weeks to go. And we need God now more than ever, right? But again, we have to maintain that divine connection, because without God, we are absolutely nothing. Well, I hope and pray that you really and truly got something out of this and understand the importance of having a divine connection. Again, my name is Anthony Henderson, speaker extraordinaire. I'm Leonard's firstborn child, reminding you that life is God's gift to you. And what you do with that life is your gift to God. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.